Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about the Caregiver Program, all you need to know about starting and completing the process from Nigeria all by yourself. You'll get to know all you need in terms of requirements, eligibility, what you need, the financial implication and every other information you need to know about the Caregiver Program. Now let's get into it. For those who do not qualify for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, this is another program you can take advantage of. The requirements here are a little bit relaxed, although the work permit that comes with this type of visa is work restricted. Work restricted in the sense that with this program comes a work permit that can only serve you in the home child care provider or home support worker industry, which means you either have to take care of kids as a nanny, or you take care of the elderly, or as a nurse, basically just give care. Now let's get into it. First, there's a type of caregiver program known as the Live-in Caregiver Program, which is no longer available. The Live-in Caregiver Program is the caregiver program that is specifically designed for the employer to house you for a period of 2 years while you work with them. And this caregiver program is closed to new applicants. So those who applied, say, before it's closed, and if you're already in the pool, don't worry, your application would still be considered, but it's closed to new applicants. Now for the caregiver program, to get the permanent residence through the caregiver program, you need to have worked for at least 2 years in Canada, but I'm assuming most of my viewers would be in Nigeria. So if you're applying from Nigeria, this process can only get you a temporary residence visa. But the good thing is, while working in Canada, even with a temporary visa, it puts you in a better position to apply for the permanent residence, which you shouldn't have issues getting if you're already working in Canada, be it as a caregiver. And the good thing is, when you get your permanent residence, your work permits won't be job restricted anymore, which means you can just use this caregiver program as a platform to get yourself into Canada. Then when you get into Canada, work for a few months, maybe a couple of years, process the actual permanent residence, then get about your normal life. So as stated here, the Home Childcare Provider Pilot and Home Support Worker Pilot are 5-year pilot programs that let qualified caregivers and their family members come to Canada with the goal of becoming permanent residents. If you've been offered a job in Canada as a caregiver or have experience working in Canada as a caregiver, you may be able to apply for permanent residence through one of these pilots. The application process will be different depending on your situation and how much qualifying work experience you have. Now, qualifying work experience means you've worked full-time in Canada in one of these NOC, either the 4411 or the 4412. And the 4411 is the Home Child Caregiver Program, while the 4412 is the Home Support Worker. This Home Support Worker is mainly for the elderly, either for you to serve as a caregiver to the elderly, to the aged, while the Home Child Care Provider is basically being a nanny or a babysitter. Now, level of work experience determines how you should apply. Now, I know most of my applicants will be applying from Nigeria, so a lot of you would have zero work experience. So I'm going to focus more on the process of applying with no work experience. Now, in the first category, you don't have any qualifying work experience, which is the one I just said I was going to focus on. Now, if you don't have any qualifying work experience, you can apply for the permanent residence through the Home Child Care Provider Pilot or the Home Support Worker Pilot, as long as you meet the eligibility requirements. Now, this is how the process works. You apply to either the Home Child Caregiver Program or the Home Support Worker, depending on which occupation you plan to work in. You submit an application for work permits together with your PR application. If you meet the requirements, you get a work permit in Canada temporarily. And this work permit that you get is going to be occupation restricted, meaning it's not open. It's going to restrict you to work in the caregiver industry. Now, when you get at least 24 months of work experience, you can now apply for the permanent residence. You have to send proof of work experience once you've gathered enough, which means once you've hit the 24 months work experience mark, you show proof and apply for the PR. It makes it a whole lot easier. And then the final decision is made by the IRCC. And if you're successful, you get your PR. Now, if you are successful in your application, you'll be able to bring your family members, your immediate family members, with you to either work or study in Canada while you carry on with your caregiver program. If you are going to come with your family members, you have to apply for either a work or a study permit while applying for your own work permit. Now, the category 2 is you have some work experience, but your work experience is less than 2 years. If you have some work experience but less than 24 months, you can apply for the Home Child Caregiver Program or the Home Support Worker Pilot as long as you meet the minimum eligibility requirements. And the process is pretty much the same. Category 3, you've worked for at least 2 years as a full-time caregiver. If you've already worked for at least 24 months as a caregiver, you'll be eligible for the PR direct, not the temporary this time around. But when you apply, you need to include documents to show or to prove that you have enough work experience in this particular industry. Now, what are these other eligibility requirements that all of these categories need you to have? First, you need a genuine valid job offer from an employer in Canada, someone who is looking to employ a caregiver. 2, you need to show that you are able to do the job. First, this genuine and valid job offer, you can click on the link here to read more on what that means. Secondly, you need to show that you're able to do the job. Thirdly, you need to meet the minimum language level requirements. 4, you need the minimum education requirements. 5, you need to show that you're admissible to Canada, you've not been banned. And then finally, you have to live outside Quebec. Now let's treat this eligibility one after the other. You need a genuine and valid job offer. Let's click on it and see what we have in stock. So here's what it means to have a genuine and valid job offer. The job you are offered must be made using the Offer of Employment IAM 5983 PDF. You can download the PDF material here. Secondly, it has to be a full-time job, which means you must work at least for 30 hours a week. You need to engage in 30 hours of paid work every week. Now, thirdly, your employer must be from Canada and lives in Canada. Then you need to live outside. The job must be outside of Quebec. Now, your employer must not be an embassy, high commissioner, or consulate. Genuine, meaning there's a real need to hire you. Your job offer must be in the appropriate NOC, either 4411 or 4412. Now, ability to do the work. Now, your past experience or training, if you have any, would serve as an added advantage. Now, your language level, you need to take a language test to prove that you meet the minimum language skill. Now, to measure your English or French skill, you need to take a language test, and if you're taking IELTS for instance, you need a minimum of CLB 5. Now, as far as education is concerned, you must have completed at least one post-secondary education credential of at least a year. So here the OND holders have an advantage. So if you're an OND holder, your OND is a 2-year program, so it's more than a 1-year post-secondary school certificate course or certificate program, so it's good for you. So that's what you need to know about these 5 eligibility requirements. Now, for those looking for how to get a genuine job offer, you can visit canadiannanny.ca. You can create an account. I'm not creating an account, I'm not looking for a nanny job, but you can create an account, or you can just search for available jobs now. So let's say you're looking for a nanny job. You come here, you click on the nanny job. So here on the left hand side there are filters. that you can use to filter what you're looking for. These are all filters. So what you need to know now is there are 2,886 jobs on this site alone available for applicants. Now, as an applicant from Nigeria, you will not be eligible for all these job offers. So all you need to do now is to filter out the applications or the offers that you'd be eligible for. So let's start from here now. Searching for nanny jobs, already selected that. Location outside Canada. Okay, location of the job, it has to be in Canada, all provinces. Now, what type of provider? Of course, it has to be an individual. Are you looking for newborn babies, infants, toddlers, early school, primary school, preteen? I think if you're applying from Nigeria, I'm not sure you care about any of those. Now, are you looking for live in, live out, full time, part time, summer only? It has to be full time because that will be the only job you'll be eligible for. Now, as you check each filter, the page here adjusts to take out the ones that you are not eligible for. So you search for full time. Now you have to check English because I'm assuming you speak only English. Now pay, you're going to leave it at what it is. Special needs, there's no point checking on any of this. You don't have to check any of this too. Now training, if you have any training in any of these fields, to serve as an added advantage because some employers are looking for people with this type of training. So if you're a nurse, a registered nurse, or a babysitter or a CPR, if you've taken any course whatsoever to certify you as either a first aid expert or a CPR, babysitter, registered nurse, personal support work, early childhood education, food safe, whatever certificate program or course you have in any of these fields, it will be another advantage because some employers specifically ask for people with these trainings. But if you don't check any. Who knows, you might find an employer who doesn't need that. Now you're not living in Canada, so this won't apply to you. Eligible to work means the employer is looking for someone who already has a work permit. I'm assuming you don't have a work permit already. So I would advise you pick this, an employer who is willing to sponsor. Now when you say an employer who is willing to sponsor simply means the employer is willing to do the LMIA process to show that they need an employee and they've not been able to find one from within Canada, so now they have to look for someone from outside Canada. So you can check on this. This is very, very important. Now every other thing here doesn't really matter. Going by this filter, these are the employers that most people on my contact will be eligible for. Now while applying, you need to read the description very well. Please take out time to read the description. It is very, very important. So let's click on this first one now. So here's all you need to know about this particular job offer. So first, the employers are looking for a full-time nanny and they're going to need you in Victoria, BC, that is British Columbia. So here it says, hello, we are looking for a full-time nanny starting September to come join our family for long term. My sons are 8 months and 3 years old. A minimum of 5 years experience. The pay is negotiable. We are happy to work with the right candidates and help sponsor. We will only consider sponsorship if you have already completed your IELTS and English test requirements. When you message me, please tell me about yourself and your previous experience. So when applying, you already know what you need to do. If you don't have 5 years work experience, don't send in your application. If you have not done your IELTS and if you don't have up to minimum of CLB5 in your IELTS, don't send an application. This is not for you. Now, the employer is willing to sponsor, which means the employer is willing to do the LMIA, that is Labor Market Impact Assessment, to show that they have tried to get someone from within Canada and were not able to successfully get someone, so now they need to get someone from outside Canada. So if you're willing to apply for this, if you meet the requirements, you click here and apply now. Remember, you need to have an account first. Let's go back. Let's move on to the next employer. Now the next employer, here's the employer's name. Looking for a qualified overnight nanny, wanted in Masset, British Columbia. Now a minimum of 2 years work experience. The pay is $12 per hour. So here are the details you need to know. I hope you're having a good day. My family is looking for a passionate nanny. I look forward to hearing from you. Brief and precise. Now here's what you need to know. This employer is willing to sponsor, which means the employer is willing to do the LMIA. I can provide sponsorship. Learn more about work sponsorships or contact our support team. Now you can live in, you can live out, full-time, long-term, short-term. This particular employer doesn't care. He just wants a nanny for his 2 kids. Ages, the first one is a toddler, the second one is between 1 to 3 years. This employer also stated the services needed. So your responsibilities would include housekeeping and preparation of meals for the kids. So you go on and on and on. So that is how you can get a job from Nigeria as a nanny. Now, are you able to do the job? If you're a parent who has done something similar, it kind of puts you in an advantaged position, because of course you took care of your kids. Now note that the fact that you took care of your kids doesn't mean you have work experience. Those are 2 different things. Your personal home experience as a mother or as an aunt or an elder sister doesn't count towards work experience. Please note this. For language level, you need a minimum of CLB5. Education, you need at least 1 year post-secondary school education. You're admissible to Canada. Being admissible to Canada means you're not found wanting in one or more of the following criteria. Someone can be deemed inadmissible for security reasons, for human or international rights violation, organized crimes, medical reasons, financial reasons, misrepresentation. This is one very common one, when people lie on their application just to get in. If you're found out, your application will be denied. Then failure to comply with any provisions of the IRPA and having an inadmissible family member. These are some of the reasons why one can be inadmissible. So how do you apply? If you want to go ahead and apply through this particular immigration program? Like I said, first you need a genuine valid job offer before you apply. Now, whoever your employer is going to be, the person needs to give you the completed IMM 5983 forms for you to sign, including your application. Now, which means you'd have to download these documents. Or better yet, your employer will download these documents. Whoever is going to employ you needs to complete the IMM 5983 form and give you to sign. Now, if you're applying from outside Canada, you need to use this instruction guide for applicants from outside Canada. Remember, click this link, it takes you straight to the page, and you need to fill the forms correctly. Now, fill out the forms on your computer. Some forms have a validate button that helps you check if you completed all fields in the form. When you're done filling these forms, click validate. If there is any field still needed, it will be outlined in red. After you've successfully validated all forms, you will get a barcode page. Print out all forms, including the barcode pages. Sign and date all forms. Use the documents checklist. Click here and you get the documents checklist. Now answer all questions carefully, completely and truthfully. Then 4. You pay your application fees. In most cases, your fees include processing fees for you and anyone you include in your application for permanent residence. So the right of permanent residence fee, then the work permit processing fee, and of course the open work permit holder fee. Click on these links to know the exact amounts. Now, if you're coming with any of your family member and they want to apply for the study or work permits, you need to pay their application fees as well. Now, when you finish paying these fees, you must print receipts for each of your payments and include all your receipts with your application. You have to pay your fees online. Use this link to pay your fees online at a biometric collection service point. Now, for biometrics, you and your family members may need to give your fingerprints and photograph at a biometric collection service point. In most cases, you may pay a biometric fee when you submit your application, otherwise, you may experience delays. The biometric fees cover the cost of collecting fingerprints and the digital photo. After you pay the biometric fee, After you pay the biometric fee with a complete application, you will be sent a letter to tell if you need to give your biometrics or where you can go to get it. You must show this letter when you give your biometrics. You must give your biometrics in person. You should book an appointment. Find out if you need to give biometrics here. Now, the third party fees. These are other fees, other costs that you would incur in the process of application. Now, these are not costs that you would pay directly to the IRCC, but would still cost you money to obtain them. For instance, your medical reports, your police certificates, your language test, and your ECA. These are all certificates or forms that you would have to part with some amount of money to obtain. I know for a fact that the language test IELTS is about 75,000 naira now. The medical exam, the police reports. Now the ECA, I think with WES, your ECA should be 220 Canadian dollars per person. Remember to read that instruction guide to know which of the fees apply to you and where and how to pay them. When you download the instruction guide, make sure you answer all questions, include your fee payment receipt, and include and all other supporting documents. Now, before you submit your application, use this document checklist to be sure. If after submitting your application, if you need to submit any other application, you'll be contacted. And if your application for the PR through the Caregiver Program is approved, you get a confirmation of permanent residence. And if your application is approved, you'll be asked to send your passport, your international passport, to the processing office so you can get your stamp, your visa stamp. And if your PR application is refused, you would get a letter explaining why your application was refused. So that's that about applying for the Caregiver Program from Nigeria. If you have questions, please do let me know in the comment section below. And remember, the link to these documents will be provided below, so click on the link to download it for free. Thank you.